1 through 10, which is also an excuse for me and Dregs to walk across the studio. So I have to walk and talk at the same time, which is challenging. Mikko Rantanen was number 19 at 6 p.m. Eastern time. He's moved all the way up to number 1. A couple of Brocks behind him in Nelson and Boeser. Scott Lawton, who we've been talking about in regards to the Leafs for about a month now, and Rickard Rakell and his 29 goals already in Pittsburgh so far this season. 6 through 10 includes Flyers defenseman Rasmus Ristolainen at number 6, Brandon Tanev, Ryan Donato, Riley Smith, and Carson Soucy is at number 10. My chair was way too low. I was gonna look just like a tiny little man next to Chris Johnston, so I've had to raise myself up. Here are all the insiders now. Rantanen is the most fascinating story here as we come towards the deadline, because I don't remember a player of that prominence ever being traded twice in the deadline period. And Carolina,
well, because it's pretty stupid to do it.
Oh yes, you've been on that. You've been on that for quite a while. But they're looking around to actually see, and it is at least a 50-50 possibility, maybe?
I would say they're doing more than looking around, and the reason he's jumped to the top of the trade bait board here with 40 plus hours, give or take, until the trade deadline is because Carolina has upped its efforts to get a sense of whether the market is on Mikko Rantanen, and had talks with a number of different teams. The Leafs are among them, Dallas, Los Angeles, New Jersey, but the list goes deeper than that because of the kind of player and the opportunity this represents. The reason why you're flummoxed, James, is because this isn't the sort of thing that happens each year. But look, Carolina traded for Jake Guentzel and lost him at last year's deadline. They got a sort of no answer on an extension for Rantanen, and they want to at least see if there's some trade that makes sense before the deadline.
Dregs is going to jump in, but let me just say this, because that was a little harsh. I say stupid because I find it hard to believe Carolina can recoup the same value that it gave out to Colorado and Nietzsche's and Drury 6 weeks later for a rental that only cup contenders are going after.
But why does that matter?
I could be wrong.
That sounds like backpedaling to me. That's what it sounds like.
You're angry at Carolina. I'm angry at you for suggesting they don't deal it. We could use that on deadline day.
You know, look, it's a domino effect, right? So Mikko Rantanen, when you look at the pool of wingers potentially in play available here, is going to be number 1. If that domino drops, and perhaps there's a spin-off effect that other teams can take advantage of. And I look at Brock Boeser and the Vancouver Canucks, right? And everything that the Vancouver Canucks are trying to do moving forward is more in line with maybe next year. But they are taking calls. Of course they are. He's a pending unrestricted free agent. But the market isn't really driven around Brock Boeser. It isn't. And I'd say the same of Rickard Rakell with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, we know Kyle Dubas has been busy on this day, but they look at Rickard Rakell, who's got 3 years left and $5 million, and they look at the cap going up next year. And yes, there's interest around Rickard Rakell, and maybe if those other pieces get moved, the interest is enough for Kyle Dubas to act. But he's also looking at the offseason going, well, wait a minute. If the wingers in free agency are getting way overpaid because there's more money to spend, maybe this player becomes more of a trade asset given the term remaining in the money.
We know that a lot of teams are calling about Brock Nelson. Is Lou Lamoriello answering the phone? Does Lou wait till the last day before he's decided? That is always the cone of silence in Long Island.
Yeah, this has been a fascinating process over the last 48 hours. First of all, the Islanders beat Winnipeg on Tuesday night to get 3 points behind a playoff spot. And I'm telling you, that makes a difference for a guy like Lou Lamoriello, as I just lost my mic behind me.
No, your mic's
good
as you hear. Yeah.
But what I'm being told tonight is that it's still uncertain exactly where Lou Lamoriello will go here. And there's 3 options, obviously trying to sign him, which I think is out the window now. I don't believe Brock Nelson will re-sign with the New York Islanders. Obviously, trade is the most likely option. That's where it's trending right now. But there's also the option, if Lamoriello believes the Islanders will stay in this race, that they keep him despite not signing him. And that was mentioned to me tonight. Now, the teams that would love to get in on Brock Nelson and have let the Islanders know include Minnesota. Despite not having cap room, that's where he's from, and they would be all over him July 1st. Maybe they swing a trade for him. Toronto, Winnipeg, Colorado, New Jersey, now that Jack Hughes is out for the year, definitely interested. They phoned today. And on the outside lurking, Vegas and maybe Florida.
I always try to read little body language from players when in a market like the Islanders where Lou doesn't tell you anything. And Nelson started to get choked up after that after-game interview the last game, so I thought maybe he thinks he's going anyway. We'll find out. So Luke Schenn, really good depth defenseman that a lot of contenders would covet. So he goes to Pittsburgh tonight in the last hour or so. And Pittsburgh is not really considered a contender at this point. So is this a get him to flip him, or what is it?
Yeah, two sellers doing business doesn't seem to make sense at the deadline. But in this case, I do think Pittsburgh will at least listen and gauge the market on Luke Schenn. And, you know, where it's at with him, obviously some familiarity there with Kyle Dubas, who brought him to Toronto in 2023 at the deadline. Luke Schenn is signed through next season, and I think the Penguins are very comfortable having him be part of their team if the market isn't there. But we're less than an hour since this trade was announced with Nashville, and so I think they've got to get a sense, what could he get? But I'll tell you this, you look at trade bait, not a lot of defensemen on there, and so
right.
I think if the offers are strong, we see him flipped in the next couple days.
Give me one team from around the league that maybe we haven't been talking about that much who could surprise us by doing something.
LA Kings, I think, need a home run swing here. They may play the Edmonton Oilers for the 4th consecutive spring, and they're looking for a different result. They need a difference maker. They're interested in Mikko Rantanen. They're interested in other offensive options. They want to act.
For me, it's the Boston Bruins. And look, they've already started the sales job here a little bit with Trent Frederick going to Edmonton earlier this week. But I think they could buy and sell. And someone told me there from that team, we've got a lot going on. Not sure what's going to come together, but I think they're also looking at doing some buying in addition to selling. And watch for Brandon Carlo's name perhaps to come back into play here.
I was watching the Pittsburgh Penguins early in the day, but they made that deal. So now I'm shifting over to the Philadelphia Flyers, and maybe Danny Briere and the Philadelphia Flyers don't do everything that we projected they might do in trading Scott Laughton or Rasmus Ristolainen. I mean, yesterday he was told 60% chance Ristolainen gets traded. He's got a sweet contract right now based on the way he's playing. More likely Laughton gets traded, but I'm curious to see what the return is going to be in Philly.
It just feels like this is going to be an extended trade center. There we get something later on tonight. We get a whole bunch tomorrow, and it just runs through the night, and you guys are exhausted, but you're almost free on Saturday. By the way, this was where my chair level was when I came over. That was what Rennie, the cameraman, probably wanted to do to make me look stupid here on our Insider Trading edition.
I've never felt taller.
The Real Trade Center comes your way starting at 8 a.m. on Friday. These guys will be here. Bob McKenzie will join. We'll have pretty much every analyst at the network to guide you through to the 3 o'clock Eastern deadline.